This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carannante.
Welcome to the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carannante. It's Monday, November 18th, somewhere in Southern California, perhaps by a fireplace, maybe in a boardroom, maybe in a Chili's too. Scott Boras, Juan Soto, Hal Steinbrenner, Aaron Boone, Brian Cashman, perhaps a video presentation on why the Red Sox have such a strong history of Dominican talent by accident, given the fact that the Yankees once showed 2004 Red Sox highlights to their own team. Who knows what this meeting consists of, but it would appear that the Yankees are meeting with Juan Soto now, maybe later today. Maybe it already happened. I don't know how early they get going in California. It would be like 11 a.m. We're live at 11 a.m. California time and 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern time on the Yanks Go Yard podcast, like we always are. But today's the day. 4 meetings to start the slate of Juan Soto suitors. The Jays went first, apparently, although their meeting garnered very little fanfare. Although this is good. You're not going to believe this. According to reports, it went really well. That's crazy.
Whoa.
Anyway, the Red Sox had a meeting after that. Alex Cora put on a little smirk like the rat fink he is. And I don't know. I'd love to meet Juan Soto, but I haven't yet. And he obviously flew across the country to meet Juan Soto. This is going to blow your mind, too. The Red Sox meeting went very well. But reportedly lasted 3 hours, which, I mean, those seem to be a conflict of interest. Have you ever had a good 3-hour meeting, Thomas Carannante?
Never.
Never in your life, never in my life. The meetings actually get much worse once they cross the hour and a half, 2-hour threshold. But that went well. The Mets meeting, oh my God, this is going to, I mean, are you sitting down for this? It went extremely well. It was detailed. It went very well. John Henry, the Red Sox owner, who's the guy who like really doles out the checks, apparently wasn't in the Red Sox meeting, so no money exchanged. Depending on what you've heard, maybe money was exchanged in the Mets meeting. Probably wasn't. These are 3 get-to-know-yous. The Yankees go fourth. Here's what we know. What we know so far, we're going to talk about on this podcast in terms of what could happen, what might be happening right now, what might have happened, what appeared to have happened in the Red Sox meeting, the Mets meeting, a couple of rumors that are out there that make no sense because there's not really much else to talk about in the Yankees rumor sphere right now because we're all waiting on Juan Soto. Their backup plan might be Teoscar Hernandez. It might be Corbin Burns. It might be Blake Snell. It might be Christian Walker. It might be trading Jason Dominguez, which people were buzzing about this weekend. There's a lot they could do, but everything they might do makes a lot more sense with Juan Soto, and they're hoping to be able to move on that in the next 2.5, 3 weeks. But today is the introductory meeting, even though the two sides know each other already. Nothing is going to get done today. They're on a fact-finding mission about the previous couple meetings. I mean, does that feel fair? Thomas Carannante, welcome to the show. We'll open the door as best we can on what might be happening behind closed doors in the Juan Soto meeting right now. But for anyone expecting to get that dopamine rush of the Jeff Passan breaking Yankee sign Juan Soto tweet, Hal Steinbrenner went above and beyond today, that's not going to be happening. I will eat 3 insoles, shoe insoles. Yankees sign Juan Soto today and Monday, November 18th, 2024. Or if anybody else does either. I will eat large portions of shoes. But Thomas Carannante, what's up?
What is up? What I'm trying to figure out is what these reporters, like what their barometer is for a meeting going well, right?
Yeah.
Because how could a meeting go poorly outside
if it went poorly, would we hear about that?
A, would we hear about that? B, did someone come in belligerently drunk and like knock the hors d'oeuvres off the table? I don't know.
I forgot the presentation. I freaking forgot it. Oh.
What does a bad free agent to me, a bad free agent presentation is like the Rockies being like, "Hey, here's our future, Juan. We have a restricted payroll because we overpaid Chris Bryant. Our farm system kind of sucks and is devalued for whatever reason, and our owner and the fans clash pretty often. So we're throwing everything out there to be as honest as we possibly can with you." And Juan Soto's like, "You know what? I appreciate that candor. I'm going to have to give it some thought. We'll get back to you later in the week." For me,
it's 78 homers here next year. You could set the all-time home run record. You're not going to win a lot of games. We don't have a lot of talent in the pipeline. And after you, we're not spending any more. Okay. Well, thank you.
Like, of course, I could see. Well, first of all, my dream meeting is like they go to a dive bar and they just drink pitchers of beer and they talk out, hey, what's the next 10 years going to look like? You're like, oh, man, you were just here for the full year. Let's talk about how that went. Tell us what we did wrong. How can we improve upon it? Boom. And they just hash it out. By the end of the night, they're walking out, arms across each other. They trip over the first step. Someone catches them, throws them in a cab. It's all good. Worst possible meeting is like when Ari Gold and his agency tried to recruit Vinny Chase after he said he was open for business, and they were like, McDonald's, Nike, Vinny Chase. And then he was like, I don't fucking want this at all. Like, that would be like, and that's the situation the Yankees are in, right? They need to retain this high-end client that everybody values, and they have to be genuine, and they have to be honest with themselves, and they have to be candid when talking about it, because like we're discussing right now, of course I could see the meeting with the Red Sox going well. How could you not? Legendary Dominican players. They have a top 3 farm system, I want to say, with
top 1 in my opinion, but it goes back and forth. They're certainly top 3. The problem with the Red Sox farm system is that if you sign Juan Soto, which you should still do, the talent gets a little bit redundant because they don't have pitchers. They would need to ship out some of that farm system for pitching, which is easier said than done. It works, but it's not that easy, and they kind of need like 2 aces. So you could do it, but the farm is like outfielders who Juan Soto would be replacing.
And they have a good roadmap there because they have I want to say a surplus of outfielders in general. Like, you have Willie Abreu, you have Jarren Duran, 2 guys you could trade for a good pitcher, a very good pitcher. Or if the Red Sox just said, you know what? We're going to spend extra. Juan Soto, come on in. Blake Snell, come on in. Garrett Crochet trade. Let's do it. And then they save most of their other tradable assets for the deadline. And then they go all in at the deadline for whoever's available. So, like, of course that meeting went well. Hey, we're an international brand. We are literally the most successful franchise in the sport. Over the last 20 years, we are home to some of the most legendary Dominican players in the history of baseball. And yes, you know what, Juan? We did tear down a World Series winner in 2018. And the reason being was because we believe that we could build from within and then prepare for this moment. You know, we tried to prepare for Shohei Ohtani last offseason. It didn't work out. Now we were looking ahead because we knew that the next couple free agency classes were going to be really big and give us the opportunity to invest our money properly. You are candidate number 1. You are the one that we want to go after. Here's our plan. So, of course, the meeting went well. Mets, why wouldn't that go well either? Pretty good farm system, good mix of young talent and veterans at the major league level, endless money to spend after they pay for Juan Soto, and Francisco Lindor is your tag team partner. Like, Blue Jays, I guess that meeting sucked because I don't know how you make that appealing for anybody, but Yankees meeting today, I don't know what they can do outside of tell Juan Soto they're either going to spend more money or guarantee that Brian Cashman is not going to trade nothing for nothing, or they hinge on the potential reality that he just loved being in the Bronx and it's his second home, and they're going to cling to that. I don't know what the answer is. I really don't, but that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah. Again, like, people talked about what an advantage it would be to get the 1 year of Juan Soto before he hit free agency. And it was a fun talking point. Everybody memorized it so they could say it, like, when as a rebuttal to, well, he's a free agent. Why'd you even trade for him? It's like, well, getting him in the door for a year will be valuable for free agency. And people said it so often it lost all meaning. But at the end of the day, it wouldn't have been valuable if the Yankees had had a terrible season or if Soto had clashed with the fan base or ownership or internally. And it would have been valuable as a fact-finding mission. The Yankees would have known, okay, we don't have to spend $650 to $700 million on this guy because it doesn't work. But they brought him in. And last offseason, we had conversations with, is one guy really going to turn around the lineup to the point? This is an 82-80 team, and every time Aaron Judge is injured, they don't perform. Is Juan Soto really going to be that big a difference maker? And they go to the fucking World Series, and Juan Soto hits the game and series winning home run to end the ALCS. So would it have been valuable? You know, would it have been an advantage in recruiting for the Yankees to have Juan Soto and for them to have a middling year and go 89-73 and losing the wild card round? No, that wouldn't have been an advantage at all. It probably would have ended his tenure in the Bronx. But outside of winning the World Series, there's one obvious way it could have gone better. It really couldn't have gone that much better in year one. What argument do the Yankees have to make? The Yankees, whether you think Hal Steinbrenner spends enough revenue or not, he objectively spends some of the most of anyone in Major League Baseball every year. They're always competitive. They should be, if you listen to us, stomping their foot on the competition and really exerting that financial advantage. And they don't do that with enough regularity. But it's not like they don't spend. They just had a chance to get out from $36 million to Garrett Cole, knowing that they had this Juan Soto hopeful expenditure on the horizon, and they didn't do it. They said, come back for the same deal. $36 million next year, that's fine. We're not going to renegotiate. And he said, oh, you called my bluff. I wanted to come back, and now I will. They spend more than most. And wanting to win is a precious commodity at this point in Major League Baseball. The Yankees aren't just going to be able to sell Soto on the very recent past, though. They need to have a vision of the future. So it won't be enough for them it certainly won't be enough for them to say, look, we're the Yankees, right? We are the New York effing Yankees, and we get what we want, because we've seen in the past 20 years that's not true. It's not automatic. They need to find the right people who have the right level of buy-in. They're no longer a prestige brand that just towers above all else and all the chips fall their way, and they don't even have to put forth effort, and they just get what they want. Garrett Cole, lifelong Yankee fan, huge advantage. Aaron Judge, drafted and developed, huge advantage.
Cool.
Anthony Volpe, Austin Wells, the pitching infrastructure, they're beginning to import these players who are being drafted and or developed by the system, and that's fantastic. But they run a large payroll because they extended Judge and they paid Cole, a lifelong Yankee fan, and the Stanton opportunity fell into their laps, and they also paid Carlos Rodon. But they don't just have this super team of every year we're going to sign the top 3 free agents, and that's what we do, and that's what we get, and every winter we get what we need no matter what. Like, if you walk into this meeting and you're like, come on, Juan, Monument Park, right? We're the Yankees. Then you've already lost. That's what everybody else laughs at you for. The Red Sox have 4 World Series since 2004. They have the most championships in baseball during that time. Since the Yankees have last won the World Series, they've won 2. It's a fact. So John Henry hasn't spent much in recent years, right? John Henry hasn't put as much attention towards the Red Sox since 2018, or at least since the firing Dave Dombrowski in 2019. But Red Sox fans, national media and Yankee fans too, don't fall victim to Red Sox fans acting like they have this big unsolvable drought. They were in the ALCS 3 years ago. They won the World Series, won 108 games 6 years ago. This is a sleeping giant more than it is just a team that's taken a generation. These are a couple years off. And in that time, they built the top farm system in baseball. It's a good argument to Juan Soto to be able to pitch him, hey, what are the next – I hope you enjoyed your time on the Yankees. You grew up a Red Sox fan, reportedly. What does the next generation of the Yankees look like? Well, Hal Steinbrenner said he doesn't want to carry a $300+ million payroll. And we have so much wiggle room because we have no contracts weighing down our books. We have the top farm system in baseball. Sure, Roman Anthony's an outfielder. Jarren Duran's an outfielder. Willie Abreu's an outfielder. Whatever. Like, we can clear out 2 of those guys for Garrett Crochet tomorrow, and then we can sign Max Fried. You like that? Would you prefer Blake Snell? We're talking to everybody. So I don't think the Red Sox should be the favorites for Juan Soto, but I don't think that they should be laughed at like they are. And Red Sox fans are as guilty of this whiplash as anyone, because they're like, they've been doing we don't spend for 3 years. Now all of a sudden they're doing like, oh no, I'm starting to think we might, like, why would he say no to us? We have XYZ. We have this history of Dominican legends. We have his childhood fandom. And they're right. In the second part, they're right. And there's certainly the possibility. It's not like John Henry hasn't spent in the past. He just hasn't spent recently. He could have easily been saving up money for somebody like Juan Soto, a golden opportunity like this. Or even, God forbid, next offseason, Vlad Jr. is available. So, hey, how much money does John Henry have? How much profit does he have? Could he sign both? That's a pretty scary team. You trade Tristan Casas, put Vlad Jr. at first, rotate him in at DH. Very good baseball team, objectively. It's hard to do. I still think the Mets have an obvious financial advantage over the Red Sox, but the Red Sox wouldn't be here if they didn't intend to get close. They're not they're not taking a 3-hour meeting with Juan Soto just to be like, how about $420 million with deferrals? Like, they know where they have to be. they're not going to get in the pool and then be like, sorry to do a 3-hour meeting on yet. Just got our financials back. We can do a 2-year deal. Like, that's not going to happen. So I still think the New York teams are 1A and 1B, but I don't think you should laugh at the Red Sox, and I don't think you should be like, they're probably offering freaking pennies for him, because they're not dumb.
No, it's the perfect dark horse destination if we wanted to dub it that. And it's certainly under the radar because of how much they've kind of fallen off. I know they had the magical. It's an ALCS run, whatever. They beat the Yankees in a 1-game wild card. If they were in a 3-game wild card, it probably would have been a different story. It's crazy how the playoff structure has changed 3 times in 5 years. Expanded field, 1-game playoff to 3-game playoff to now. Crazy. But yeah, I mean, the Red Sox are what you would deem as the sleeping giant dark horse destination. And they're not to be overlooked. The Blue Jays have much less of an infrastructure and uncertain future. They have a lot of money on the books. They have people coming off the books. So they're like in that purgatory where it's like, yeah, we do have a high-ish payroll, but also like some of those guys are leaving and we're not sure which ones we're going to retain. And we've also kind of gotten worse over the last 2.5 years. So our farm system also sucks, Juan. How do you feel about all of that? Much tougher pitch in terms of any of the other teams that would potentially have been involved. They're imperfect solutions. You look at the Dodgers, they would have to clear a lot of space, figure out a lot of things, and then spend unthinkable money. At this point, I agree. It's New York teams, then Red Sox, then whatever else. I still don't know why the Phillies aren't involved here. I would love to know why. Have we heard anything else on that front? I don't know. But long story short is that whatever is going down at the meeting today, why isn't there a player at the meeting? Like, why isn't Aaron Judge at this meeting? Or is he? He's not.
He's not listed, but yeah. Maybe he is. I don't know.
The Yankees like to be secret about the dumbest shit.
I love when people, too, are like, man, the Red Sox should sign Juan Soto and bring the rivalry back. It's usually non-Red Sox fans who are like, man, I miss Yankees Red Sox. It'd be great to bring that rivalry back. You're proposing that we kill the rivalry. Like, that wouldn't bring it back. The Red Sox would be stomping on the Yankees for 8 years running if they signed Juan Soto.
Yankee fans would check out. They would give up.
What would we do? We would have no counter. And then, what would bring the rivalry back is the Yankees bringing back Juan Soto permanently, and then the Red Sox getting Vlad Jr. and pairing him with pitching in that farm system, and then it's sort of an arms race back and forth. Mm-hmm. If the Red Sox got Soto now, the Yankees would be like, can Caleb Durbin play 3 positions at the same time? Like, let's how many positions can we fill with $500,000 players? This ties in nicely, though, the comment we just received. I don't want to talk about the Red Sox anymore. But in terms of, pivoting to the Mets, because I think a lot of people have assumed the Mets are the favorite. And first of all, fair assumption, because obviously Steve Cohen has a ton of money and they're motivated and they did make a play for Aaron Judge. They haven't made a huge splash yet, and they want to, and they went to the NLCS last year with Lindor as the centerpiece. So all the Red Sox chatter in the world happened Thursday, Friday, because Red Sox have a great sports media ecosystem. There are Red Sox fans everywhere. They're on Underdog. They're at Barstool. They're the ones who chirp and chatter. So no kidding, when the Red Sox had a meeting, all the Red Sox people woke up.
Jared Carrabis on MLB Network.
Everywhere. Everywhere. All the time. They can't. MLB Network and all the other mainstream media cannot wait until the Red Sox make a splash so they can talk to the Jared Carrabises of the world and start agitating Yankee fans. But then, of course, the Mets had their meeting, and everybody, I think, remembered why they were among the favorites all along. It was like, oh, right. Like, if they wanted to, could just outbid the Red Sox by like $100 million. I think the Red Sox have a ton. I still maintain it would be sort of a silly way for the Red Sox to rejoin the free agent market, spending $700 million on Juan Soto. But also, I would get it. He is that transformational. The Red Sox offense last year was better than the Yankees offense in 2023. They would have a chance to get right back into contention. But after the Mets meeting, we don't know if any numbers were exchanged, and it seems like, we've been told none were in the Red Sox meeting. I don't know what the Blue Jays meeting was, other than like, hey, you like poutine? Anyway, we got to get out of here. We saw the Red Sox in the lobby on the way in. They had a 3-hour meeting prepared. But the Mets meeting, as soon as it ended, rumors started to swirl about them discussing money because, of course, that's what happened. The source of this rumor specifically, it's being mentioned here, it's $660 million offer. Is that real? It came from Carlos Baerga, a former Met, former MLB player who's been getting into the rumor mongering game the past couple of years. He hits sometimes, he doesn't hit other times. I would bet on this not being 100% legitimate, but also probably being the framework of something he heard at some point. It's not outlandish to hear that, but notably it doesn't come with a number of years attached. So $660 million.
Do the years matter?
I mean, $660 million though, that's like right in the median range. Like it's a realistic rumor that I could make up and you would be like, oh yeah, I mean, sure, that's fine. But it's not a number that I would say like, oh, Brian Cashman, you can't match that. House Steinbrenner, you can't match that.
Yeah, if that said 725, I would have been like, fuck.
Or it could have said 800. Like, that's the thing with Steve Cohen. He's not going to just overwhelm the field by $100 million, I don't think. But if he wanted to, he could be like, these are cute contracts. I know the Yankees said that they'd match whatever it took to get you. I'm going to pay you $850 million over 14 years. What do you think about that? They're not going to do that. No one's going to do that.
What do you think about that?
That is a thing he could do. And it doesn't seem like he will necessarily, but it's a play in his playbook. It's not in everybody else's playbook. $660 million. John Boy broke it down for 14 years. It's $47 million a year. That's like not that outrageous.
So Ohtani's salary, isn't Ohtani making 46?
Yeah, I mean that's rational and reasonable. I would think I'd prefer slightly less than Ohtani, but you know what? You look at that and you go, I mean, it doesn't seem unmatchable. Do I think the Yankees would match that? Yes. But the rumor that doesn't make any sense to me is that Hector Gomez started a rumor that said the Mets are going to pay more overall value, but the Yankees plan to win the AAV war more annually, fewer years, and the Mets just have a bigger lump sum, which does not make any sense to me based on how the Yankees have behaved in the past. Yes, it is true that that is how they lost Yoshinobu Yamamoto and also how they coped in the aftermath by saying their offer was 10 years, $300 million, and the Dodgers got him for 12, $325. And so the Yankees got to hang their hat and say, we had more AAV, but, he made a difference.
And an opt-out and incentives.
Opt-out after 5. But the fact is, first of all, that's pitching versus an offensive player. The Yankees have treated those commodities completely differently. That's an largely unproven talent coming out of Japan versus Juan Soto, we know everything about him. He just led the Yankees to the World Series. And Yamamoto, very specifically, I don't know if he started the process trying to use the Yankees and Mets to bid up the Dodgers, but he sure ended it that way because Shohei Ohtani signed with the Dodgers and structured his contract specifically so they could fit this fat Yamamoto deal in there. That's a fact. We know that now. Yeah. We didn't know that then, and we know that now. And on top of all of that, the Yankees are prone over the years with position players, maybe not as position players with as high a level of talent as Juan Soto, because there aren't many of those, and nobody signs those because they don't hit the market. But over the years, the Yankees have been notorious for stretching out contracts over more years to lower the AAV and the tax burden, rather than doing the opposite and shrinking them. DJ LeMahieu's on this team for 6 years because of that. Because they were like, we want to do $90 million, but would you be willing to do $15 a year for 6, even if it takes you out of your prime, which is what they're dealing with now? So the idea that they'd be willing to compress a contract so they could top the annual value, whereas the Mets would be the ones willing to stretch it out for longer, feels like the literal exact opposite of what would happen. It feels like the Mets would go, why don't you do 11 years for $55 million a year? Whereas the Yankees would be like, can we get you to 13? I know it's less money next year, but we would love to stretch this out. And I mean, they were unwilling to do it with Yamamoto. They were unwilling to do it with Garrett Cole, who just said, I'm going to opt out and just add that extra year. And they said, absolutely not. No, we don't want to do that. So pitching, different to me, but the idea that they would be willing to win the AAV battle with the Mets but get outspent runs counter to pretty much everything they've done with position players. And Juan Soto is the position player of all position players.
Unless Juan Soto rolls into the meeting with Scott Boras and is like, we are prioritizing AAV in these contract talks, that's the only way that would make sense in terms of, you would think that the Yankees would want to offer more years. So Juan Soto is like undisputed. His career will be remembered as a Yankee. I understand the deal is going to be at least a decade, so that doesn't matter. But like 13 years, much like the Yamamoto deal, speaks it does speak louder than 10 for whatever reason, even though you're looking at that contract and you're like, well, there's going to be a couple more diminished campaigns in there, but there's something to be said about an older player on the team. It helps galvanize the clubhouse. So Juan Soto in his late 30s could be still a very big asset and a fabric of the clubhouse and the organization and all that. So it's worth thinking about. And it does make sense that it doesn't make any sense that there would potentially be an AAV battle here. The people who battle for AAV are Trevor Bauer. So they are the cool kid for 15 minutes and then they go away.
He invented short-term high AAV deals. So we do got to give credit where credit's due. That was his idea.
Remember, he was like, Max Scherzer, dude, welcome to the AAV club. How does it feel? And they were like, everyone was just like, shut the fuck up.
It's like, did you see the video from the UFC fight of Elon sitting next to Trump?
Yeah.
And just laughing so hard at his phone, begging Trump to be like, what's funny on your phone? But he doesn't. Yeah. That's Trevor Bauer. He's the guy being like, welcome to my personal club, Mr. Max Scherzer. Like, here's your smoking jacket. The water's fine. And Max Scherzer being like, I've never met you. I don't know what you're talking
Who are you again? But yeah, so those deals are reserved for certain players in certain junctures of their career, and Juan Soto is the complete opposite of that. He is somebody you sign, like, you could justify in theory you could justify a 15-year deal here. He's 26 years old. He's going into his age 26 season. Plenty of, if he could profile as a DH later in his career, that could be totally doable for his late 30s. So yeah, that seems like a completely made up rumor or misinformation. People hear things wrong, and they want to get first to reporting it. And I don't think it's certainly commonplace. It's not a criminal offense, but it happens. You got to sift through the information and make sure you're reading the right stuff. But I had people asking me about Garrett Cole's opt out. Like, they didn't know. Regular baseball fans were just like, oh, Garrett Cole opted out. Bad news, huh? And I'm like, actually, not at all. It's actually just industry procedure here. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that. So so why would you think the average fan would know the Yankees prefer to stretch things out over years rather than paying higher? Like, you wouldn't otherwise know that unless you're following all things Yankees at all times of the day and wasting your time like us wondering about DJ LeMahieu's 6-year, $90 million contract that I probably still think about 3 times a day at any point in the day.
And if they didn't like stretching contracts, it would be over already. It would have been a pretty bad 4-year deal.
It would have been done. Yeah. It would have been done now.
Yeah. I still maintain, look, after 2020, you can't let DJ LeMahieu walk to the Toronto Blue Jays, which was a rumor. He was the team MVP, and 20 was a fake season. And now we know that there is a juice ball in 2019, and we didn't really know that then. But 2020, he hit 364, and he racked up 3 WAR in 2 months. DJ LeMahieu was crazy. And he was also the exact kind of bat that they didn't have nearly enough of. We need contact. He was the best contact hitter. He was also built for the stadium. And then, as it turned out, he was pretty good in 2021, but had a sports hernia and also not great. 2022, he was really good until he ran out of steam. And then the last 2 years, he was absolutely awful. And so the game has passed him by, and it is what it is. But a team like the Yankees has to be able to absorb someone like DJ LeMahieu if they have 2 phenomenal years, hit free agency, then have 2 good years and 2 bad ones. You need to be able to be like, that's fine. But instead, they've turned it into 6 years because they're obsessed with stretching these things unnecessarily. The best thing Steve Cohen has done so far for the Mets, 2 things. One is hire David Stearns and empower him to make decisions so that you're not just shopping on the top level of the shelf. If Steve Cohen was just, I'm the richest owner in baseball, and I'm going to buy Juan Soto today, and tomorrow I'll buy Corbin Burns, and maybe we'll win the World Series. And if we don't, then I'm going to buy Vlad Jr. That's not what he does. He has one of baseball's top executives to be like, we're going to get Tyrone Taylor and Harrison Bader, and that platoon will outperform Luis Robert Jr. or whatever. Crazy stuff like that. And the second thing is when he takes a big swing and he does hey, I had Justin Verlander. How do you feel about 2 years and $92 million? then if it just straight up does not work, which it didn't, Justin Verlander on the Mets feels like a fucking fever dream at this point.
I had one of his Tops cards. I'm just like,
that was
this
like
never
a
existed.
year ago. I mean, that's absurd. But it didn't work at all. He didn't really pitch or perform. And then Steve Cohen went, I don't care. He goes to the Astros. We pay his whole salary. They give us top prospects. Done. Great. We're all good with that.
Good business plan.
And he just swallows the money. And a team like the Yankees, it's not like they don't spend, but they could use someone at the top who's just like, this was a mistake. This didn't work. I will swallow the money. It's my bad. Instead, we had to wait till the end of the line on LeMahieu, who we already stretched out. And we had to wait way too long on Aaron Hicks. And Josh Donaldson's having 2-hour meetings with Aaron Boone. And then Aaron Boone's being like, that was actually another productive meeting. Aaron Boone and Josh Donaldson, delaying that game. Has there ever been an unproductive meeting? Great question. But yeah, Steve Cohen has yet to really just like punch somebody into the dirt on a massive free agent deal, but he's done a lot of smart things that have made it so that he hasn't had to do things like that. I do agree with a comment that says everyone is trying to push Juan Soto to the Mets. It just, the more you bounce it around,
crooked media.
It could be. It could be Elon's memes and the algorithm, but it does feel odd that, I mean, it's easy to get lost in the sauce, and we're going to maybe get it's going to feel good today. We're not going to get a contract, but it's going to feel good to get a report of some kind that connects the Yankees to Juan Soto, because the baseball offseason has been so much of a slow drip so far, and the people who aren't invested in this are driving the conversation. And so there's been so much Soto Red Sox and so much Soto Mets, double the Soto Mets, the Soto Red Sox. When is the last time anyone talked about the team that he was just on that will crumble if they don't bring him back? Like, I'm not saying the Yankees are going to. I'm not saying they're going to be able to top Steve Cohen's eventual offer. I'm not guaranteeing anything. I'm just saying that the Yankees will cease to be what they were last year, which was a flawed team that made the World Series on Juan Soto's back, if they don't sign Juan Soto. And there's been a suspiciously low amount of chatter about Soto and the Yankees. So much so that your average everyday fan is kind of like assuming he's going to go to the Mets, which I get it. And I think he might, but I do think he has a pretty good chance of returning to the Yankees as well. And I think it's odd that we're not hearing anything about that at all, just simply at all.
It is odd. It kind of just falls right in line with what they do, though. There's barely ever any salacious chatter. The Yankees usually don't let the information get ahead of them, which can be good and bad, right? Like right now, you would love to hear positive Yankees Juan Soto developments, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It'd be great. Instead, we're hearing non-existent Tim Hill rumors that aren't going anywhere. So
we somehow have yet to sign Tim Hill.
Yeah.
Like, we're in the only Yankees rumor we've had so far is mutual interest in a reunion with Tim Hill, and we're looking at Yoel Moncada. Yikes.
Yeah.
No movement there. And how much does it take to get a mutual interest deal done with Tim Hill? How much money are we earmarking for Tim Hill? How mutual is the interest? Like, that should have been done the first day of free agency.
Yeah, they can do a much better job with the information machine, it feels like, and they don't. Again, they're the New York Yankees. They should have a really good PR department. They should be able to control a lot of the narrative in the media the way that they want to, and it feels like they consistently don't. So maybe another thing for them to evaluate in year 7 of us complaining about this, because it's ridiculous. There should be positive Juan Soto developments coming back to New York right now, whether fabricated or not. And I know that's stupid to say, because like, why would you put a fake report out there? But we see teams leaning in certain directions all the time. We see agents plopping stuff out there for strategic purposes. I'm not saying go ahead and lie and convince the fan base that you have Juan Soto in the bag, but I don't know, figure something out instead of having, your PR team beef something like Brian Cashman revealing Aaron Judge's contract extension offer before the season starts. Like, don't do that. Can we do something positive? Can we do something to drum up more support? We know Juan Soto and the Yankees are a fit. We watched it happen. Sure, we'd like a more efficient outfield alignment, but nobody's going to complain if he's here. And in terms of plan, there should be more of a roadmap to determine how they're going to fit him into a 10 to 15 year run with this team. They should have had that already written out last offseason when AJ Preller signed off on the deal with the Padres. So the fact that, again, absolutely nothing is bizarre. And we'll keep hearing about good meetings with other teams, I guess, or if it's bad, like they couldn't have found somebody in this Blue Jays meeting to give like, here's $500. Give me like, what happened? Did some bullshit happen? Like, I want to hear it. What did Mark Shapiro do? What did he do? We know he said something. What did he say? Mm-hmm. What players were there? Anybody?
Who's in charge of the Blue Jays?
Yeah.
I haven't thought about them in a long time.
What restaurant did they try to rent out this time and they couldn't because Toronto had full bookings and the Blue Jays blew it, and Soto was really mad that he didn't get his meal that night. Like, give us something. Do a better job. I don't know. Make this more fun.
Ken Rosenthal in foul territory, pretty much right. I don't know if he's live now or if he's just clipping it, but pretty much right as we're speaking, is doing the cold water on the Blue Jays and Red Sox. And look, if Juan Soto does sign with either the Blue Jays or Red Sox, and they're not just there to drive up the price or acquaint themselves with Scott Boras or what have you, then a lot of sports media people are going to have to make long apologies because Red Sox locals are treating the Red Sox Juan Soto pursuit like it's with increased fervor. We have not seen energy from this team in years. And a lot of those reports sound like the last couple of days of the Kamala Harris campaign in battleground states like Pennsylvania. But hey, but either way, like Red Sox locals are like, wow, the Red Sox, there's increased intensity here. Like Alex Cora is doing like, I don't know. How do you spell Soto? Like, I don't even know how to pronounce his first name. Is it Juan? And everyone's like, you met him yesterday, asshole. Just admit it. But Ken Rosenthal on foul territory and a lot of the national insiders, he just was basically like, the Red Sox have all these left-handed power hitters. It's not really an area in which Boston lacks. Yeah. Would they really? Sure, Juan Soto is once in a generation. But would they really make that level of financial commitment to a redundant force and someone that they already have? And it's like, that's a very good point, and also the kind of thing you say if you're already starting to sniff out that a pursuit is maybe not fruitful or not going to end the way that they hoped it would have. I think there's no reason the Red Sox should not have been involved here. I think they had no excuse not to bid heavily, and I think there's no negative, right? Let's say they don't get Juan Soto, all right? They spent 3 hours in a room with Scott Boras, proving the fact that they intend to bid on his clients, and then they get to say, all right, well, we've got $600 million that we just told you about, so can we have Blake Snell? Can we have Corbin Burns? Like, we're not that far. They were a 10 games over 500 team last year.
Yeah.
And then they fell apart. And
right after Alex Cora's extension.
That's what they're trying to prevent is collapsing. But one way you do that is by improving your pitching so you don't have to be like, I hope Cutter Crawford has it again today. And they'll be good soon, which I would obviously rather they be terrible, but I'd rather they be perceived as good than what we've had to deal with the last couple of years, which was like, for whatever reason, the media crapping on them and then them being 10 games over 500 because Dom Smith is on a heater, being like, oh my God, the power of friendship. Like, I would much rather the expectations be not zero, so they don't get to be like, Tyler O'Neill has a higher WAR than Juan Soto on April 4th. Let's go. Like, let's at least get it to a place of equilibrium where if the Red Sox are good, they're not doing like, little old me is good, my number one most hated thing of all time. But I still think, yeah, I mean, look, maybe more comes out in the next couple hours from Ken Rosenthal and the Ken Rosenthal types, just being a little bit more careful with, hey, nice to see the Red Sox here, but at the end of the day, why is Juan Soto the move? Like, those are the breadcrumbs that are going to give you something more than no one's going to come out like our dream and just say, like, that meeting went dog shit. Like, that would be great for content and great for comfort, but it's never going to happen. You're going to have to see the breadcrumbs in other ways. I saw some interesting chatter on Twitter, too, that was like, what do you actually want to hear coming out of the Yankees meeting today? Because if you hear from the same people who just touted the Red Sox and Mets that, like, you're just going up the ladder and all of a sudden they're like, after today's meeting, the Yankees might be favorites. Like, that feels worse than just hearing, like, meeting went well. Like, if all of a sudden they put the switch flips all the way and they're like, the Yankees kind of blew Soto away. Now the Mets have an uphill battle. That is trying to get Steve Cohen to be like, 750, 770, what'll it take? But if almost nothing comes out, and it's just like, Cashman felt comfortable getting reacquainted with Soto, a player he enjoyed for much of last season. Hal Steinbrenner made his intentions clear. After stating it midseason, he intends to bring him back for life. Like, that would be better to me than, like, the scales have tipped and all of a sudden it's the Yankees' fight to lose, because that would be driving up pressure in a different way. I don't know.
They just got to do something good. Not a PowerPoint. Something else. Anything?
I think Mike Lopez in the comments is worth addressing, because do Yankee fans know any player they sign will cost, almost double the price? Yes, and they're not going over that level of tax if they sign Juan Soto. So
yeah.
just to be clear, part of it is that they're losing Gleyber Torres and Alex Verdugo, and they're gonna maybe non-tender Trent Grisham,
Clay
and
Holmes,
John Birdie, Clay Holmes,
30-something million. Anthony Rizzo.
They're clearing $70 million of salary, so they can sign Juan Soto under that level. So if it takes getting over that, they're not going to do that.
Yeah, if we
that's another like you talked about, the misconceptions. Like, wow, they're going to have to pass that luxury tax. They're going to go above and beyond to make sure that they don't.
Yep. Torres 14.2 million, Canely 5.75, Verdugo 8.7, Clay Holmes 6, Loaizaga 2.5, Rizzo 11. And then look, remember, there are also these salary dump trades we're talking about. DJ LeMahieu and Marcus Stroman. A couple of things have been floated out there. Do I think they're going to happen? Not necessarily. Not going to rule it out, though, because the Yankees might have to work really fast to make that happen if they feel like adding Juan Soto plus more is the priority. Those guys kind of can't be here anymore. And if you're paying Stroman, $8 million to not pitch for you, and you're saving $10.5 million, that could be worth it in terms of the bigger picture. And then you have, like you said, the non-tender candidates. Like there was talk about them potentially non-tendering Jose Trevino because they have defense first catchers in the upper echelons of the minor leagues. So, like, why in theory do you need him? He doesn't add offense. Yes, the pitching staff likes him, but that's not an asset that you're going to pay maybe close to $5 million. He made almost $3 million last year. He's going to get a raise in his final year of arbitration, and it's going to be the biggest one, or at least you would expect it to be. So, yeah, Trent Grisham, what is he projected to make? 6, 7, something 7, like that?
Yeah, I think over. And I mean, we're not seeing him. Trent Grisham with, hey, quick show of hands from the comment section. Did you know Trent Grisham was on the playoff roster for all 3 rounds of the postseason?
Yeah, crazy.
What?
Yeah, insane. They let Lou Trevino was another one. He made almost $2 million last year. He was slated to make $5 million in 2025, and they ditched it. I think the only salaries that they have inherited were they picked up Luke Weaver's option, and they paid Anthony Rizzo's $6 million buyout, and everything else is up for grabs. Rosters are 40-man rosters must be confirmed tomorrow, so we'll know who they're going to be protecting for the Rule 5 draft when the winter meetings arrive. But yeah, there's a lot of financial flexibility here that the Yankees can work through, and they could potentially get even more creative. And now I'm getting mad because I see Scott Efros's name on here, and he has 3 more fucking years of arbitration with this team. God damn it.
That's a fun one. I would, good note, good shout to everybody watching. Stay tuned for the rest of the week because they're going to protect these rookies first before the Rule 5, and then the non-tender stuff goes down. So by end of week, you could see some, you want to talk about real news, you could see some relatively long-term Yankees sort of floating out of the market. And I would say it would really hurt to have to non-tender Jose Trevino, but also like a cash-strapped team. That's the kind of thing that they should be doing at this point in time. Like, Austin Wells is your starter, right? Yes, everybody. Like, September was pretty weird and bad, but he's your starter. And either way, even if he's not, I don't think Jose Trevino is. So he's your backup catcher whose arm was greatly diminished last year and was like genuinely scary. It felt like I love Jose Trevino.
Same.
It felt like when you're an NBA team and you don't have the bench guards, and you're like, all right, our second unit has to come in. Not that this is relevant as a Knicks fan, but it also 100% is. You're like, all right, here comes the second unit. I hope their defense doesn't suck ass after all the starters came out. Because, like, we had to put in a point guard who just let up, 4 buckets in a row, and now our 10-point lead is 2. that stinks. Let's put the starters back in. Every time Jose Trevino was started last year, it felt like that kind of mismatch. It was like, you're going to play him. The other team's going to run wild. And then you're going to be like, I wish we could put in our starting catcher, but we can't because catchers need days off. And so I guess this is just what we're going to be dealing with. They have much cheaper defensive-minded backup catchers on the 40-man roster like Carlos Narvaez. And did Trevino hit enough last year that you're like, wow, we can't deal with an offensive downgrade from the backup catcher spot? No. So I think that probably deserves more attention as a non-tender option. And it would hurt, and it would feel like a chemistry fail, but also like that probably has to happen.
Yeah. Look, I don't know, but a lot of options here. A lot of trade options here as well. I don't know. And you look at it all depends on how they viewed this World Series run, right? Did they view this as, oh, this was the logical next progression, a step of progression that this organization needed to take? Haven't been in the World Series since 2009, finally made the World Series. However, removing Juan Soto from that equation could potentially make this team fringe wild card if you look at the rest of the division, depending on also what they're able to accomplish this offseason in trades and spending. Like, a lot of other teams have more spending flexibility than the Yankees do. So don't forget, this is a pretty loaded free agent class. Juan Soto was not the only free agent here. The Red Sox and Orioles and Blue Jays can get better by spreading out $100 million across 4 or 5 players, and that could change the game. So if the Yankees view getting to the World Series as an accomplishment, but are realistic with themselves, and they're going to know that they need more athleticism, they need better defense, they need kind of a different revamped culture in a sense, like maybe like a 1B culture. They need something beneath the main Yankees prestige culture to drive it forward. And maybe that's where they prioritize themselves in free agency. I don't know. But there are ways that they can get flexible. There are ways that they can make changes. And it's not just pay Juan Soto a lot of money, deal with tax penalties, and then live in purgatory forever. It's not going to be that.
No, I don't think they should live in tax purgatory forever. I think that's one of my long chances.
It would be fine if they did, because I don't care, but just make sure you make the right moves.
That's it. Anything else you would like to touch on before the end of the show? Obviously, we're stuck. Like, we're stuck
Rookie of the year
right now. Oh yeah, that's probably a good idea. The current New York Yankees have some awards up for grabs. They also have made some high-profile changes behind the scenes. I think we should touch on by end of show. But Rookie of the Year is announced tonight. Luis Gil, Austin Wells, Orioles outfielder Colton Cowser. Those are your 3 finalists. Luis Gil just won the Baseball Digest Rookie of the Year, which is also called the Fooling Your Parents into Thinking It's the Real Rookie of the Year Award. It's a really shareable Instagram meme.
Did your dad get fooled?
Both of them got fooled.
Oh, nice.
But it's not, that's not the Rookie of the Year award that we all know and love. That is decided tonight, and I think there are 2 of the 3 Yankees in here, and I think Colton Cowser of the Orioles is probably the favorite. So
you think?
We'll see. I mean, I think Wells' September dragged him down, even if you don't. I don't think a lot of people are going to acknowledge that he might be one of the. He was honestly one of the best defenders at any position last year, out of nowhere. Even we were told he couldn't catch, and he sure could. But yeah, he ended up at like a 103 OPS plus. I don't think that's impressive enough. I honestly think there's a world where Wilyer Abreu snuck into this top 3, and I'm kind of surprised he didn't. But the Yankees get a pick if Wells wins, and they don't get a pick. They might get a pick if Wells wins, depending on how he was rated by BA and all these sources, and if they can come to an agreement on that. They don't get a pick if Heel wins. I do think the Orioles will get a pick if Cowser wins, and I think he's going to win kind of handily. Sorry, but I'm curious what you think here.
I mean, this is very underwhelming. This is actually upsetting that these are the 3 front runners, and 2 of them are Yankees, because the Yankees never have Rookie of the Year candidates involved, and now they have 2, and you're looking at, and it's like Volpe last year with like fans outside the organization. They're like, this is your top prospect. This is the guy everyone's talking about, like in Baseball America and on all these other publications. How is that possible? Colton Cowser, I guess from a volume perspective, deserves it. 150, 3 games played? I have the stats here. 153 games played, 3.1 WAR, 123 OPS plus. Very much faded away, though. Very much faded away as the year went on. Whereas if you are a voter and you are looping in the narrative aspect of this, it's got to be Luis Gil. He filled in for Garrett Cole to start the year and pitched better than Garrett Cole did last year for the first 2 months of the season. I understand he fell off too. That's more of a natural path for pitchers, especially rookie pitchers, just because teams figure you out rather quickly, and you may or may not have an innings limit on your arm. Luis Gil was coming off Tommy John surgery, had never pitched this much in a season before, ended up with a 3.5 ERA, 151 and 2/3 innings pitched across 29 starts, 10.1 strikeouts per 9 innings. I don't know how that doesn't get the job done, especially when you're looking at Kowser's metrics, underwhelming on the defensive side of the ball, considering moving him out of center field, or did at some point. I forgot what the discussion was with the Orioles for the majority of this year, but nonetheless, that team kind of faded into obscurity, and Kowser's fall off was also part of that. That said, that's not how the award is given out. It's not who is the best performer in the first 50 games of their rookie season. He maintained a solid workload. He ended up with respectable stats. For me, though, and this is not even biased because I don't care if Yankees win individual awards. I could not care less. I don't want to argue about it. It doesn't make, the only thing that I could get angry about is Jose Altuve, Aaron Judge back in 2017. If there was something hotly contested like that, but this is pretty low stakes. All the candidates are rather underwhelming, and I'm willing to say that about my team, but what Luis Gil was able to do in the context in which he did it deserves the win. That's my opinion. Austin Wells, if he had a better September, that's the guy I'm rooting for, but he fell off so hard, and that's the team's fault. That's Aaron Boone's fault for not moving him out of the cleanup spot sooner. They continued to let him wither. They didn't take the pressure off him, and they got the results that they got.
I'm also fairly confident that when he got hit in the wrist with a pitch, and we all were like, oh no, he's gone for the year. Oh no, he's not. He's actually just still playing. And then he played really shittily for a full month and a half that maybe he shouldn't have played through that. I mean, he still should have. The defense was worth it, but he became an offensive black hole overnight. So just interesting how that happens. If Luis Gil had just been serviceable in late June, early July, instead of dreadful, he'd have won this award.
Yeah.
But I think he didn't even make the All-Star team. Remember when he was a Cy Young frontrunner? He was like 9-0. He didn't make the All-Star team. Like, it sucked then, it sucks now. But at the end of the year, once you got to the playoffs, it was like, oh no, who are we going to use as our 4-starter? I guess we can use Luis Gil, even though we don't even know if he can give us a competent 2 innings. And it was like, that's how far we've fallen. And it was accurately so. He was like gritting his teeth through 4 innings, and he was serviceable and he was fine. But that's not Luis Gil. That's not the Rookie of the Year finalist who I know and love. So we'll see. I would be willing to bet on it. Not the Yankees taking home this award, but in the broadcast booth, they deserve to be. They deserve the award for most high-profile hire this offseason. Yeah. John Sterling retired, and then he unretired, and then he re-retired. He's on the Yanks Go Yard YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed, you should be. Check out the shorts. John Sterling is there. I filmed him very close up last week. Critics are saying too close up, but you know what? I don't listen to critics. He was struggling to hear the questions because he is in a loud room, so sue me. But on the radio next year, John Sterling will be replaced by Dave Sims, who is 71 years old, so not going for the youth vote, but legendary Seattle Mariners announcer. He's been there for like 20 years. Former WFAN host. Yeah. His own show, former host of a news recap focus show on MSG Networks. He's a New York guy. He's lived in New York the whole time. He's worked in Seattle in the offseason. And now he's back, supposedly partnered with Susan Waldman. That's a hell of a get. I don't know how long he's going to stick around, but he's going to do it as long as he can and is willing to and has the power to. And the Yankees are not shopping in the bargain bin here in an area where they could have easily sort of turned it over to a fresh-faced, like, 37-year-old, and instead they go with here's a huge beloved name who's maybe on track to be a Baseball Hall of Fame announcer someday. So that's kind of a big win.
Yeah, thank fucking God it's not Craig Carton. We were talking about Dave Sims for a while. There were rumors that he interviewed for the job when I think the Mariners were in the Bronx for a September series. He kind of shot those down in a very winky wink manner. And at that point, I think fans had gotten excited because there's been some John Sterling fatigue, and I understand that that may be misplaced. The man is a legend. The man is still as sharp as can be at his age, which is incredible. And he has done it for 35 years, synonymous with the Yankees, established that type of reputation. But the broadcast mistakes that we have seen over the last few years that maybe weren't his fault because during COVID things changed and some of the broadcasters for road games especially were doing it remotely, which is not natural whatsoever. The fact that he retired in April abruptly months before saying he's not retiring anytime soon, and then coming back for a World Series run because it seemed, obviously they're going to the World Series. Oh yeah, I have to come back and announce. Like, the Yankees are very big on continuity, especially in that type of role. Which is why Ricky Ricardo was being considered for the succession plan, but they kept him on the Spanish broadcast, which I'm sure is great value to the franchise and to the radio station. So getting Dave Sims was honestly the next best thing. From New York, loves the Yankees, grew up a fan, ingrained himself in the Seattle culture. Like, everybody loved him over there when he departed. Like, fans were very emotional about it. I think he was there since 2007 or something. Like, that's a long time. It's a long run to be with a team. And ever since that those rumors started popping up, the highlights from his broadcast as a member of the Mariners broadcast team, you would see these awesome clips of him getting super animated. I know he was on the television side, but imagine that coming to life on radio. For me, that's cool. I love the radio broadcast. So giant win for the Yankees and WFAN.
It's nice to have some giant wins, isn't it?
Yeah, not New York Giants wins because they don't.
What the hell? No, there's nothing I want less for the rest of the season than a New York Giants win. But a giant win in the Yankees broadcast booth is helpful. Or maybe in the Rookie of the Year chase. Or maybe in the Juan Soto chase. Who knows? We will be back here on Thursday afternoon at 2 o'clock Eastern time to talk you through anything that comes up between Monday and Thursday. It would be so great. Is news, hopefully. It would be so great if something came up in the Juan Soto department that we're actually able to latch onto and discuss in depth rather than just relying on the Ken Rosenthal's of the world to give us breadcrumbs and try to figure out, hey, why is he downplaying the Red Sox after they got upplayed last week? Am I getting played? What's going on? We'll keep reading the tea leaves. That's our job right now. We're here to do it. But either way, the Yankees are getting in the room with Juan Soto today. You're going to hear the words Yankees and Juan Soto in the same sentence for the first time in a while, other than the sentence that is Steve Cohen has put the Mets in prime position to steal Juan Soto from the Yankees, which is all you've heard the last couple of days. Let's get Yankees and Juan Soto more prominently paired together and learn a little bit about the secondary courtship, shall we? It'd be great. Winter meetings coming up in 3 weeks. When it comes, we will have great guests for you on the Yanks Go Yard podcast. We'll be streaming a lot more often. We're going to have news flying. Stay tuned here. Stay tuned to the Baseball Insiders as well. We're going to have some crossover content, I'm sure, during that time. Turn your notifications on for both channels, and you'll get us on both channels, probably. But at the very least, you'll get a lot of good stuff from the rumor mill, both here and there, with a lot of great guests. Definitely here, probably there as well. It's really fun to talk baseball during this time of year, unless Juan Soto is holding up the entire market, which he's currently doing. I'm Adam Weinrib. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weinrib, as well as on Blue Sky at aweinrib.whatever. Those handles are so long, but you can find me there. Thomas Carannante, where can the people find you?
Same as always, Tommy's_takes. We are at the official Yanks Go Yard account at Yanks Go Yard FS. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Pretty easy stuff. We love you guys. Thanks for the support. A lot of viewers today, having a lot of fun talking about baseball, even though there's not much going on. See, we could still have ourselves a good time and figure it out. Head on over to yanksgoyard.com. All of the content there you will need to read throughout this offseason will be published. So we appreciate your support. You will be getting other tidbits there that you will not be getting on the podcast. So there is added value. We're up to date with everything, the smallest moves possible, any other free agency rumblings, what our rivals are doing. you name it. And until then, we'll talk to you again on Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern live right here. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. See you later.
See you later. Big numbers today. Nice to see all of you. We hope to see you again. Turn your notifications on for this channel. We'll be right back here on Thursday or sooner if we gotta be. That's the thing. If we gotta be, we're not gonna wait until Thursday. We'll be here when we need to be. So that's why you gotta ring that bell. We'll see you back here. If you're a YouTuber, if you're a podcast listener on your favorite podcast platforms, you can get us there. Drop us a line. Leave us a review. Do what you can, and we'll continue to do what we can for you. And we'll even kick in $20 a piece to sign Juan Soto. That would be fun. Let's bring Juan Soto back. But if we got to wait for that, we don't have to wait for more content. We'll be here on the website, on the channel, on the podcast platforms. Until then, I'm Adam Weinrib for Thomas Carannante. We will see ya.